At first, it seemed like just another carefully curated glimpse into royal life, another polished narrative, another warm reflection meant to reassure the public. But beneath the surface of that story, something felt different. Subtle, almost imperceptible, yet impossible to ignore. Because this time, the focus wasn't on a royal duty, a public appearance, or even a controversy. This time, it was something far more intimate. Something far more revealing. It was about how Meghan Markle truly feels about her marriage to Prince Harry. And as the details began to unfold, what emerged was not a simple love story, but a layered, evolving narrative that has left many wondering what is really happening behind palace doors. Because for years, their relationship has been watched, analyzed, celebrated, and criticized in equal measure. Every gesture, every word, every silence dissected. And yet, despite all of that attention, there has always been a sense that something deeper remained just out of reach. Something unspoken. Until now. What Meghan reportedly shared, through tone, through reflection, through carefully chosen words, has begun to paint a picture that is far more complex than many expected. A picture not just of love, but of resilience. Not just of partnership, but of transformation. And perhaps most intriguingly, a picture that raises more questions than it answers. Because what happens when the fairy tale doesn't follow the script people imagined? To understand why this moment feels so significant, we have to go back. Back to where it all began. Back to the moment when Meghan Markle first stepped into a world unlike any she had known before. An American actress, known for her role in television, suddenly entering one of the most scrutinized institutions in the world, the British royal family. And at the center of it all, Prince Harry. A royal who, even before their relationship, had often been seen as both a beloved figure and something of a rebel within the system. Their connection seemed immediate. Powerful. Almost cinematic in its intensity. Many observers at the time described their bond as deeply emotional, rooted in shared values and a mutual desire for something more than tradition alone. And for a while, the story appeared to unfold exactly as many had hoped. A wedding watched around the world. Smiles. Unity. A sense that perhaps this new chapter would bring a fresh energy to the monarchy. But as time passed, cracks began to show. Not necessarily in their relationship, but in the environment surrounding them. The pressures of royal life. The relentless media scrutiny. The expectations. The criticisms. And slowly, what had once looked like a seamless transition began to feel more complicated. Then came the decision that changed everything. Their step back from royal duties. A move that shocked many, divided opinions, and marked a clear turning point not just for them as individuals, but for how their story would be told moving forward. And yet, through all of this, one question lingered quietly in the background. What was happening within their marriage itself? Was it being strengthened by adversity, or strained by it? According to recent reflections, Meghan's perspective offers an answer, but not a simple one. Because what she seems to suggest is that their marriage has not been defined by ease, but by endurance. That it has been tested in ways few relationships ever are. And that, perhaps because of that, it has evolved into something deeper than what many initially saw. But then something unexpected happened. As more details surfaced, it became clear that Meghan's view of her marriage isn't frozen in the past. It's not just about how things began. It's about how they have changed. How both she and Harry have had to adapt, grow, and redefine what partnership means under extraordinary circumstances. She has reportedly reflected on the challenges openly, not in a way that diminishes their relationship, but in a way that acknowledges reality. The weight of public life. The difficulty of balancing personal identity with royal expectation. The emotional toll of being constantly scrutinized. And within that honesty, there is something striking. Because instead of presenting a perfect, unshakable image, what emerges is something more human. More relatable. A marriage that has faced pressure. A marriage that has required effort. A marriage that, at times, may not have felt easy. But also a marriage that has endured. And as this narrative unfolds, the timeline of their journey begins to take on new meaning. In the early days, there was excitement, a sense of possibility, a belief that together, they could navigate anything. But then came the realities of royal life: protocol, hierarchy, tradition. For Meghan, stepping into that world was not just a change in lifestyle. It was a transformation of identity. And for Harry, it meant reconciling his love for Meghan with his lifelong connection to the institution he was born into. That tension between personal happiness and public duty would become one of the defining elements of their story. Then came the departure. A decision that, according to many reports, was not made lightly. A decision that required courage, but also came with consequences. Because stepping away from royal life did not mean stepping away from public attention. If anything, it intensified it. And through it all, their marriage remained at the center. Observers began to notice something. The way they supported each other in public. The way they spoke about one another in interviews. The consistent emphasis on unity. But even then, questions remained. Was this unity a reflection of genuine strength, or a necessary front in the face of constant scrutiny? And that's where Meghan's recent reflections add a new layer. Because what she seems to convey is that their bond is not about perfection. It's about partnership. About facing challenges together. About choosing each other even when the world around them feels uncertain. What followed surprised many. Because instead of reinforcing the idea of a flawless royal romance, Meghan's words hint at something more nuanced. A recognition that love, especially under pressure, requires work. That marriage is not static, it evolves. And perhaps most importantly, that their journey has been shaped as much by hardship as it has by happiness. As the media began to react, interpretations varied. Some outlets framed her reflections as a testament to resilience. A sign that their relationship has grown stronger through adversity. Others suggested that the honesty itself was revealing, that it hinted at struggles that may have been previously downplayed. Public reaction was equally divided. Many supporters saw Meghan's openness as refreshing. A departure from the often rigid narratives associated with royal life. A willingness to acknowledge reality rather than maintain illusion. But critics viewed it differently. Some questioned the timing. Others speculated about what might lie beneath the surface. And as always, the conversation extended far beyond the facts themselves. Because when it comes to Meghan and Harry, perception often becomes part of the story. It appears that what resonates most about Meghan's reflections is not just what she says, but what she implies. That marriage, even one that begins with a fairy tale wedding, is not immune to challenge. That love does not erase difficulty. And that strength is not about avoiding hardship, but navigating it. Many people believe that this moment marks a shift in how their relationship is understood. Not as an idealized romance, but as a lived experience. Some reports suggest that this honesty could redefine how they are perceived moving forward. That it may bring a new level of authenticity to their narrative. Others argue that it simply confirms what many already suspected, that behind the headlines, their marriage has always been more complex than it appears. And yet, despite all the analysis, one thing remains consistent. They continue to present a united front. They continue to support one another. They continue to move forward together. But this wasn't the first time their relationship has prompted reflection. From the very beginning, their story has challenged expectations. It has raised questions about tradition, about identity, about what it means to belong within the royal framework. And now, with Meghan's latest perspective, it raises another question. What does it mean to sustain a marriage under constant public scrutiny? Because in many ways, their relationship exists in a space unlike any other. It is both deeply personal and intensely public. It is shaped by private experiences and public perception. And navigating that duality is no small task. In analyzing this moment, it becomes clear that Meghan's reflections go beyond her own marriage. They touch on broader themes. The tension between individuality and institution. The impact of external pressure on personal relationships. The idea that even the most visible partnerships have unseen dimensions. It also speaks to a shift in how royal stories are told. Traditionally, narratives surrounding the monarchy have emphasized stability, continuity, and discretion. Personal struggles are rarely discussed openly. But Meghan's approach challenges that. It introduces a level of transparency that feels more aligned with modern expectations, but also more vulnerable. And that vulnerability is what makes this moment so compelling. Because it invites the audience to see beyond the surface. To consider the reality behind the image. To recognize that even within the world of royalty, relationships are shaped by the same forces that affect us all: love, pressure, growth, change. As the story continues to unfold, one thing becomes increasingly clear. This is not a static narrative. It is evolving. Just as their marriage is evolving. Just as their roles, their identities, and their place in the world continue to shift. And perhaps that is the most significant takeaway of all. That what we are witnessing is not a finished story, but an ongoing one. A story that resists simple definitions. A story that invites interpretation. A story that, even now, remains partially unknown. Because despite everything that has been said, everything that has been written, everything that has been analyzed, there are still moments we don't see. Conversations we don't hear. Feelings that remain private. And that raises one final question. Was Meghan's reflection simply an honest glimpse into her reality, or was it something more? A subtle signal. A carefully measured statement. A hint at deeper truths yet to be revealed. Because in the world of the British royal family, nothing exists in isolation. Every word carries weight. Every narrative has layers. And every story, no matter how complete it may seem, always has another side. So as we step back and look at the bigger picture, one thing remains uncertain. Is this the clearest understanding we've ever had of Meghan and Harry's marriage? Or just the beginning of a new chapter that will change everything once again?